you're never done learning, you're never done growing. Like you could always be better. I'm either gonna do it all the way or I'm not gonna do it. Am I ever gonna be able to write a song again? I'm going to do it. I'm gonna do it better than anyone thought I could.
We're here. I think it's working.
Yes, I hope so.
Yeah, it's always a guaranteed. Whenever you do something important or cool, internet will always drop out on you.
I know. I had another call also that was using this platform, and I was so worried.
Oh no.
And it was really lagging then too. It was around the same time of evening, but I had another one recently in this location. I changed locations and it went well. So
Oh,
here's to hoping.
yeah. It's like that feeling, if you like make a big purchase online or something, or you're like booking something, you press either confirm, and then that spinny thing comes around, and you don't know if it
Yes.
charged your card or not.
Yeah.
It's horrible. Well, Taylor, welcome to Craft Talk. I'm glad that internet's like working great right now. You sound good. Do I sound good on your end?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, congrats on the new album, Running Back to Me.
Thank you.
I've noticed that you have been absolutely crushing it. You're like on this like press run. I think you were on the news, you were doing interviews. I'm waiting to see you on Hot Ones. Like, when's that coming out?
One could only hope, right? Yeah, I
That'd be pretty
appreciate
cool.
it. Yeah, I appreciate it though, because that's the hope, is to just like take up people's attention.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of marketing. So,
I'm assuming that this is an intentional kind of strategy when you decided to release this album. Like, I'm just wondering like what you decided you wanted to do when, okay, when I release this album, I want to make sure I put myself out there, talk to as many people as possible. Like, have you always thought of it like that, in that like, oh, we're going to really go for it?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, when we were making the record, I mean, we spent 2 years at least in the studio recording. And so for me, it was like, it can't just be a release it and be done with it, because we put so much time and energy into making it. I just wanted to give it my best effort to do the best that I could and give it like you're kind of giving your art life of its own. And
Yeah.
I wanted to do the best that we could with that. And nowadays you can't just make art, you have to wear all the different hats and do the marketing and be a content creator and all this. So I wanted to be able to talk to as many people as possible and get as many people to hear my music as possible. But then, you have the other side of it where the more you're doing, the more things you have to post if you're not like just pulling from thin air, trying to come up with things in that marketing sense as well. I don't know. So I look at it, I think, from like the lens of an artist and then from the lens of marketer in
Yeah.
today's day and age.
Sure, yeah, and I feel like a lot of artists might struggle with that a little bit, because sometimes we're all focused on our art, right? That's probably the most
Yeah.
crucial element of it. And sometimes when you're done with a project that took 2 years to record, sometimes it feels like I just want to put it out there and like let people come to it. It's really cool that you are very much aware of having to wear all the hats in this, and putting yourself out there on in like a social media platform. Have you done this in other album releases, or like where are you at in your musical journey and career with this? Because to me, it seems like, oh, you've done this before. Like, how often? Like, is this just normal to you? Like, where does this come from?
Well, I'll take the compliment.
Yeah.
But most of the time, I was just telling someone yesterday, like, I just feel like I have no idea what I'm doing.
Mm.
So I think that the more people that you talk to in any industry, a lot of people say that. I'm just figuring it out as I go or learning as I go. The goal is to seem like you have it figured out.
Yeah.
But I've really only ever released singles, never like a bigger project like this for my music, and really nothing that I've felt as proud of either. I think that a huge part of recording and producing music is finding people to work with that you like and that kind of get where you want the music to go. So the singles I put out before this, I didn't feel like were ever really like the best fit. I really didn't do much promotion of those either. Just seeing other artists in the industry and just kind of taking notes, making a plan of what I wanted to do with this project. But I mean, learning as I go, and the industry is constantly changing. We started putting singles out like 6 months ago for this release run. And, by the time the record came out, I think that the release method was already changing and I would have
Right.
done it differently, if I was starting the day the record came out. So I'm just always learning.
Oh, interesting. So like how has it changed in that 6 months? Like, can you expand a little bit on that? Like that's really
Yeah.
I didn't even know that it's just changing like that.
Yeah. I guess I don't know if this is like super niche or whatever, but we did 5 singles, I think. And we did like one every 4 to 6 weeks, kind of to give it a little bit of life, keep the momentum going, and then drop
Okay.
another one, just building up, and then put the whole record out. Yeah, I think nowadays people are doing 1 or 2 singles, full music videos, and then just putting the record out and very little like teasing and lead up.
Ah,
And I don't know really the method behind what people are doing and how it's changing, but I think that the different variety of like video content that's coming out with it, has something to do with it. And I think it changes for artists at every level. And is there a right or wrong way?
yeah. Yeah, and you're figuring it out as you go, like you said, and seeing how did the release strategy work around this time around versus like if you were to change it up. I'm noticing it even in like TV shows or streaming shows right now. It's like you have the shows that release every single episode of the season all at once. Or I've been noticing as well, like 2 episodes at a time or 3 episodes at a time. So it's like going back to like this weekly thing. It's
Yeah,
interesting. Like I wonder where the data is going with that as far as like how effective each strategy is actually.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a great like comparison too. And I think, you see it in that industry. They like hook people in
Mm-hmm.
and make them wait. And then, you're building up the anticipation for the next thing. And I guess that's, marketing
Yeah.
101.
Yeah. And did your kind of strategy, I don't want to call it strategy because it feels very like, oh, I'm just chess pieces or whatever, but
Yeah,
how did you feel about teasing singles for 6 months and then releasing? Like, is that a good fit for you?
I think so. Yeah, like I said, I put so much time into creating it that I wanted to like prolong,
Yeah.
the release as a whole. So I think that overall that's like what felt the best for me. And then, just kind of in this stage now of promoting it still as a whole. And we have, the album release show and all of that. So promoting it in that vein now.
Yeah.
There's very little things that I would have changed, but you're learning as you go. So I'm
Yeah.
taking notes for next time, maybe.
Yeah, that's really interesting what you just said of like you wanted to prolong the feeling of having your songs with you, but slowly releasing it to the public, if you will. Um,
Yeah.
with every finished project, there's this journey. I saw on one of your Instagram posts, I think as you were showing your vinyl, and I saw in your notes that like it took 10 years, or like the songs span 10 years of your life.
Yeah.
So that is a journey. My question is, what does releasing this album mean to you? Is it relief? Is it feeling like, because you said you wanted to kind of hold on to it a little bit longer and prolong it. Does it feel like saying goodbye? Does it feel like dread that like I gotta record a new album after this? Like where are you at in this journey?
Yeah. First, I'll say probably a little bit of all of those
Yeah.
things that you said, but the songs range from the oldest one was written like 10 years ago, the newest one written like a year ago when we kind of were wrapping up recording. So that was a period of my life when I was, 18 to 28, basically. And I think that in anyone's life, that's just a time of growing up and learning about yourself and experiencing a lot of things for the first time. And for me, it was like not a smooth, like
Mm,
pretty feeling time. I think that, when you're going through those changes, they're for good, but they're hard. You're learning lessons the hard way and that sort of thing. And I think that I put a lot of that into this project. I think songwriting is really like therapeutic for me. So to release it all and know that everyone's listening to, my deepest thoughts in
yeah.
a way, I felt nervous about. And I was like, ugh, am I really doing this? But I just tell myself people don't listen to the lyrics anyway. So there was definitely that side of it,
Yeah.
and then the accomplishment side of it. I think that, that's the beautiful thing about art is, no matter like how small scale your project is in the big picture, it's still a huge accomplishment and so much time and energy going into it. So I definitely felt that accomplishment, being told that you can't do something. That's kind of like a big part of, I think, what motivates me. And then being able to do it, I think, is a really good feeling. I think that once we have a successful album release show, I think that I'll feel more relief. Right now, I kind of feel still in
Yeah.
the grind and wanting to like do right by this project, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
I definitely see the drive in you just in the way that you manage sharing your music. I know that you have this future release show that you want to be successful, but I think in the micro steps, like I said, like every finished project is already a success. So 10 years, that's grinding. Like that is, if you are able to still have like the same strength of passion after 10 years, that's saying a lot about how you feel about your music, I think. Um,
yeah,
because
for
if you
sure.
didn't feel strongly about it, you probably would have just cut those songs. The later songs, you'd be like, oh, I'm older, I'm more experienced, I know how I want to do things differently. So I think it's really cool that you're memorializing this 10-year journey in this album. Have you noticed your songwriting? I'm curious, like the song that's like the oldest in that album versus the song that's the newest in that album. How has your songwriting changed?
I'd like to say that it's, gotten better, gotten
Yeah.
stronger at my craft. They say like you have to write hundreds of songs so, that you come up with one good one. And I think you can see that like in this 10-year period. I wrote so many songs during that time and kind of narrowed it down to these 13 when it came to what was going to go on this record.
Mm,
But I think that one thing I love about writing is that I was able to write something 10 years ago. Maybe it had a certain meaning to me then. Maybe it felt a little unfinished or I wasn't sure what was going to become of it. And then I can hold on to it for all this time and still relate to it or relate to it in new ways, come back to it
mm,
and make small changes or like come back and sit with it, think like, wow, this was what I was writing it for and I didn't even realize, which
yeah.
I think is just such a cool thing that I've noticed so much in my songwriting, and coming back to songs and being like, oh, wow, now I know what I was getting at. I never do co writing sessions. I always write everything by myself. But
Mm,
I
okay.
guess in a way, you could say I was co writing this with my younger self, which is
Whoa.
cool to look at it, that's
Yeah.
fun. Taylor then she wouldn't believe that, she has her music on vinyl. So in
Yeah.
that is a success for sure.
That's a cool way to look at it. You're like co-writing with your younger self, especially when you have this period that's kind of spanning this amount of time. It's funny how like sometimes when you're younger, you can write some profound stuff and you don't realize it until much later. It reminds me, I don't know if you listen to Sarah Bareilles at all. I read her book and I think she wrote the song Gravity when she was like 16 or 18. I just can't imagine being at her parents' house, her writing that song, which is like to me is like a beautifully one of the perfect songs out there to me. Like, did you know? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's fun having that perspective now, like for you to be able to look at your younger songs and still resonate with it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. I didn't know that about the song Gravity actually, but that's one of my favorite songs as well. And
Yeah.
that's super cool. And I know that her as an artist was told, your style's not it, you're not going to do it or whatever. And I just love to
Hmm.
see those stories. I can't
Yeah.
imagine that
Yeah.
feeling.
I hope I'm not making that up. I'll look it
I'm going
up,
to
but
Google it
I know I'm
afterwards.
gonna get called out for it. And be like, she wrote that when she was 30. Yeah. Um, I'm noticing that there's a lot of drive in you to prove people wrong. Just from some of the things that you've said, I'm sensing an energy that people have told you that you couldn't do something a certain way. Can
Yeah,
you tell me a little bit about,
definitely.
am I sensing that right?
Yes.
Or okay.
So you're definitely sensing that, right? And as you're formulating that question, I was thinking, I feel like that's probably my biggest external motivation, honestly. And then I had the thought, Taylor, you should talk to your therapist about that. Like, I don't know what,
Not craft talk. Right. Yeah.
I don't know how healthy that is,
Yeah.
but at a certain level, growing up and having a love for music, or art in general,
Yeah.
I think you get a lot of, well, are you sure that's what you want to do? Or, like, I don't know if that's a good path. Like, you need to go to college for something like this and get a job like this, and live your life like this. And so I think I always had that, and I'm just really like stubborn and I don't like to be told what to do. So,
Yeah.
definitely a lot of like, okay, well, I'm going to do it anyway. And if I choose this path, like I have to do it well because there is no option for like failing or not doing it in my mind, I think. And
Hmm.
then in college, I studied classical music. So I was in the music department, and, it's a
Okay.
very different environment, but you're around all very disciplined musicians. And was studying classical because that's like what you did by the book. But I think that songwriting has always been my true passion and what feels the best for me.
Yeah.
So even just in that environment, proving myself over and over again. And I was in a really bad relationship in college as well with another musician. And I can remember being like, I want to start performing, and I want to do this as a career, and I really want to hear the song I wrote, like I really love it, and just being like shot down a lot
Mm.
and rejected a lot in that way as well. And then, I mean, just being a woman doing anything, I feel like you
Yeah.
have to work just so much harder. And so I think that all of those things just have been they've really stuck with me. And so, like I said, in my mind, like I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it better than anyone thought I could, hopefully.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a really big motivator for me.
That even makes the journey of the release of the album, that gives me more context of just the hurdles and the resistance that comes with any type of pursuit. And
Yeah.
I can relate to this a lot in some sense. So I started off as a musician as well. Like I played saxophone for like my high school years, and I was going to go into like music ed, music performance. I was in between both or whatever. I wasn't really sure. But I felt like my playing style was more in the expressive type of vein. And in the classical world, like you mentioned, it's very technical, very rigid in that like it has to be this certain way. And I don't think that lent itself well to my style. And it just, yeah, it would get rejections and all that stuff. And it kind of turned me off a little bit from that world. And I think it's cool because you own your own music school, right? Is it a music school? Is that what you would call it?
Yeah. Yep.
Is that energy of proving people wrong, building that school, where does that come from? Like, is it like you wanted to build another alternative for artists?
Yeah, I think that a really big part of it, I think so many people can relate to the experience that you just shared of,
Hmm.
I have this love for music. I want to pursue this art, any art form, I think, but the couple of paths that are like laid out for me don't feel right for me. And then there's no like other way. I think
Yeah.
like in the educational system or like what people say you should do. And that's where then you're just like out figuring it out on your own, which is scary. And I think people are less likely to do. So I feel really strongly about there needing to be different avenues and opportunities educationally for young musicians to be able to come up and see like you can do this as a career in ways that's not going to look like being Taylor Swift, there are ways to be a successful artist or musician, and like showing them that, not saying, oh, you should study business, you need a backup plan, but you should study business because that's going to elevate your art, and what you're
Sure.
doing. My studio is, we have about like 10 teachers right now teaching, and we have a lot of young kids, and a big part of why I have that love for teaching is just wanting to give people a different start to music and continue to foster that love for music. And I would love to, as we continue to grow, kind of hit on, some of the things that we were discussing, like for those high school aged or like early college students who have a love for art and music and don't really know where to put that and how to make a living with it.
Yeah, I'm actually curious. How do you cultivate the energy of feeling like you can do what feels right for you, but then also be learning, part of music is also learning the technique and all that stuff, right? There's a balance between the two.
For
What's your
sure.
mindset on that when you're teaching someone who just wants to start?
The studio is called Tailored Harmonies Music Company, and I mean, it kind of is like my name, so I thought it was clever. But realistically, tailored, Tailored, was
Hmm.
important because everything we do is completely tailored and customized to each individual student, which I think is most important thing, because I think that in the past, music teachers have their way of doing it. This is the
Mm,
way, very rigid, and you must do this. And if it doesn't work for you, oh well. And I don't think that that's like
yeah.
the best way. So that plays a big part in it. And, we're all working musicians as well. So I think that it just naturally kind of creates a better environment also. And, with my students, I just always try and keep a good balance. Like, sure, you can play that song, but you have to be strong in your note reading. You have to study this, classical piece. We are going to look at jazz or, like transcribe a solo, different styles and genres, give them the good foundation. And as long as they're like putting in the work, then, they can bring their interests and what they want to work on
Mm.
into our lesson as well.
That's really cool. This just reminded me of one of my auditions. So the guy that was auditioning for, his feedback was you play really emotionally and it's really good. And then he went, but somebody needs to kick your ass on the technical. And I'm like, what? Isn't
Yeah.
music about emotion? Aren't I hitting like the good part of like music?
Yeah,
It's really
absolutely.
interesting how that works. It's just like, wow, okay, that's how that world works sometimes, I guess.
It's just such a tough balance, I think, because I think that a lot of the emotional aspect of it you can't teach,
Sure.
and that's so important. And the other stuff can be taught, and you can be really successful lacking, I think, more of the emotional side, but I think that's what makes it so special.
Mm.
But I think that that's like a tough balance, just when it comes to anything in music, like you can write all these great songs and be really talented, but if you don't have like you need someone to kick your ass in like the work ethic side of
Yeah.
it, like the
Yeah.
grind of it. It's unfortunate, I think, but I think there has to be a place where they like both live together. Like you need to, and if you can't take the harsh criticism or like the feedback that you don't like, part of it is, I don't know, how do you foster that love and passion, but also like
Yeah.
thicken your skin,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it is so hard,
Yeah.
so hard.
As weird as that moment is that I'm bringing it up after all these years or whatever, I can't hate on it too much because it has driven me to like do certain things or like find myself to like be technical in other things. And, so in some way it's impacted me, whether it's good or bad. It's led us to where we are right now. People telling us no. It's led to where we are now. Does your method and mindset for teaching, how have you translated that in your musical career, your personal music career? Have you been taking your own lessons and putting it into practice?
Yeah,
Tell
that's
the
a good
truth.
question.
I'm just kidding.
It's a good question. I think that, one of the benefits I have as a teacher is being really young. I mean, in comparison to like a lot of other teachers that you see in this space, and
Mhm.
I can really relate to my students. And so I'd like to think that I always keep it real with them, and there are times where I'll be like, I need this advice too. I'm telling you this because, I wish somebody would have told me this. Like, we struggle with consistent practice. And I think in any craft, consistency is key, but it's so hard. I mean, it's like in my adult life, like getting myself to go to the gym every day is not fun, but I know it's good for me, and kind of instilling that. And I'm like, I know it doesn't feel good right now, but it's going to pay off. And so I think that that's a big lesson that I also like try to remind myself of as well. I think, today we just live in this world of like instant gratification.
Mm-hmm.
And so I see a lot of that like reflected in my lessons with students, like, this is hard. I don't want to do it, and as soon as something gets hard, it's kind of like, I don't want to do this anymore. So I think that that's like something, just working through the hard, getting comfortable, like not being good at something, I think is just such an important lesson that you can always carry with you. And I tell people all the time, like, I don't know if your kid's going to grow up and be a musician, but if they stick with this, they'll have some accountability, they'll have discipline, they will have worked to achieve something, which I think is so important, builds character, and hopefully, like positively affects everybody in whatever they end up doing. So I
Yeah.
don't know if that answered the question, but
No, for sure. I think it's like with any hard thing, like it's like the starting of the thing is like the biggest mountain to climb almost.
mhm,
I was reading something. It's kind of like you get the ball rolling, you build momentum, and like that part's kind of it's just happening. But the hardest part is starting the hard thing.
yeah.
Yeah. You know who said that?
Who?
You. I read your blog,
Oh,
and that's from Taylor DeRousse, baby.
yeah. I do. That makes sense why I'm like, yeah, that's so
That's
true.
such I totally believe this.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
I
that's
love
funny.
I Yeah, I love that. I saw your blog, and you were talking about a story of a student that was kind of struggling in the practice, and I just found it interesting because I knew this story because I read it, right? And then our conversation of just like this journey. You are practicing what you preach because it's like doing the
Yeah.
hard thing once you've decided on a date to release the album, or even 6 months before where you're doing the slow release. Was it like this big psych up moment to be like, okay, here we go, time to get on the roller coaster? How did that feel for
Yeah,
you?
definitely. I think that there are a lot of little moments that feel like that in the journey of creating anything or trying to build something, like, okay, I'm going to reach out to this studio and see if they want to work with me and make this project with me. And, okay, they said, well, maybe we should start with a few songs, smaller project, and then saying, no, I want it to be like this, full send, and just going for, I mean, there's so many times where you're like, why am I doing this? Why am I putting so much time and money and energy?
Hmm.
And then just kind of like trusting yourself in the process as a whole, booking the album release show. Do I really want to book a venue this big? Am I
Mm.
really going to be able to sell enough tickets, to not embarrass myself? I don't know, but it's like full send. Like I'm either going to do it all the way, or I'm not going to do it. And yeah, I feel like I've faced a lot of moments like that in my life where it's like you either choose a different path or you go further and go even more all in what you're
Yeah.
doing.
And at least you could say that you can go to bed at night going, I went harder than I probably should, but I won't regret it. Yeah, like at least I can say I've done it. It's not without any lack of effort.
Absolutely. And I think especially with music, but I'm sure it's the same with anything, you're never done learning, you're never done growing. Like, you could always be better in
Hmm.
every aspect. And so I think like finding the little personal goals, and then like, okay, if I can do this, I will feel good at the end of the day, like with what I've accomplished. And so for me, just putting out a full length record, that was just a big goal of mine.
Yeah.
I did it, pressed it to vinyl, which was
So
more
cool.
than I was hoping. Yeah, so
Yeah.
cool, with a local Detroit company and little things like that. It's like, okay, I can say I've done it, and I've experienced that in my life, and I'm happy.
Yeah, and I appreciate you sharing that insight. Like I know we've barely talked about like the actual album itself. I'm always so excited about the mindset behind the things that we do. But I mean, I guess let's go back to the album just for a second, and then we'll wrap up. I assume you had more than the 13 songs to choose from.
Yeah.
Do you have a number of how many was kind of written to get selected down?
It changed so frequently. I mean, throughout the time where I had hoped, like, okay, I would love to have a bigger project like this. And, maybe like 5 years ago, whatever, I compiled a list and it was like 20 songs. And honestly, most of those songs were songs that aren't even on the record
Mm,
today. I don't know how many songs I've written in over the last 10 years. It's a lot. It's
yeah,
probably hundreds,
yeah.
and some of them never see the light of day. I sent these producers, I don't know, maybe 20 or 25 songs that I wanted like to be listened through. And then we kind of narrowed it down from there. And then I think added more, like the most recent couple of songs I wrote and finished while we were in the process of recording. So the list even then changed a
Mm,
lot too. But it's just cool to see that come to life because I think that the track list is perfect and it tells a good story and it's cohesive in a way that I don't even think I can give myself credit for planning for. I'm like, oh my gosh, that comes together so well.
mm.
Listen top to bottom, and it's really cohesive, which is something I really like in art as well. So
Making decisions to cut songs is such a precious, probably really sensitive topic.
it is,
How
yeah.
how do you discern which ones you're gonna cut? Because I'm sure all those songs are special.
Hmm.
And at some point as an artist, sometimes the editing is one of the biggest aspect of the process. I'm curious, like, how do you select? How did these 13 make it?
There's a lot of things to consider. I think that there are definitely those songs that are so special to where it's like, no, I'm not cutting this. I
Yeah.
want this. I don't care if it doesn't resonate with anybody else. I
Mm-hmm.
want it. There's the aspect of like I perform live a lot, and since these songs, a lot of them are so old, I've performed them quite a lot. So it's interesting to see like, oh, that might not have been my first choice, but when I play it, people really like relate to it and
Mm.
really, or like they really jam out to that one. So I think because I performed so much too, it really helped me discern which songs I wanted to keep. But like when we were going to press the vinyl, there's certain time constraints on
Oh
that.
yeah.
Otherwise, the pressing the songs won't sound as high quality. And so there's actually only 12 songs, six on side A, six on side B for the record. And we had to cut one song. And so I just feel like that's like the ugly stepchild, but it will always, to me, I'm like, that's my favorite because it's never
Yeah.
going to like get its little moment. But yeah, I think also just, I mean, I attach so much meaning to everything. I'm like such a deep, you know, um,
Justice
I don't
for that
know.
one song. I want to.
Yeah, I think deeply like about everything and feel everything so deeply. So I think I just had to tell myself like, it's not that deep, like it'll be
Mm,
fine.
yeah.
But
Yeah. Maybe you'll do a special vinyl where it's just that one song repeated over and over and over.
I know I need to do something. I thought that a lot. Like that song
Yeah.
deserves a little moment. But
Yeah. That's fun. Last question for you. I ask this to every guest. Knowing how driven you are, what is something that you're working on to get better at? Or like what's your next kind of goal that you want to set for yourself?
I like that question.
Yeah.
I think that, I mean, even knowing myself and knowing I'm a hard worker, I'm kind of an overachiever, that drive, I guess. Um, I'm really working at doing things that I want to do that feel good for me and getting better at like taking care of myself outside of like what I'm accomplishing.
Mm.
And so I think that's like more personal than it is like having to do with my music. But um, yeah, I'm trying to get better at like taking care of my mental health and my physical health, knowing that my business and my music will likely improve because of that. Saying no to things that like spread me too thin and, prioritizing what feels right for me all the time instead of like just saying yes,
Yeah.
to other things. Just finding like that balance, that healthy balance. And maintaining my love for music in the grind of things.
That's beautiful. And I think like everybody can relate to that feeling of, I just want to be able to say no more, you know? And
Yeah.
I'm honored that Craft Talk is one of your yeses, you know? So thank you for
Yeah.
jumping on. Like, I can't wait to see what you do. I can't wait to see you on Hot Ones. I really can't wait for the video of me saying, when are you going to be on Hot Ones? And then cut it to when you're finally on that
Our
show.
viral moment,
Yes. I was like,
right?
I was there before. What can people expect from you in the next month or two? I know you have the big album release.
Yeah.
When is that exactly? And it might release, this episode might go in before that, so that might be cool, but we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. So the album release show is in 2 weeks actually from today. So it's May 10th.
Okay.
And we're playing at an awesome venue, The Loving Touch, which is in Ferndale, Michigan. And it will be me and my full band. You know, we're doing strings and horns, which will
Mm.
be really fun. And then have two awesome female fronted bands as well that are opening up the show. So I just think it's going to be a really good night of live music. So we have that coming up. And then people can follow me on all the social media platforms. You basically just have to type in my name and everything should pop up. My website links all in there where they could purchase vinyl or merch. Hopefully in the fall, maybe doing like a mini album tour
Mm.
is kind of my next goal to finish off the release run, I guess you can say. And I'm getting married in August, so I'm trying to like
Whoa.
kick back and then like take it easy after that.
Yeah,
So
that's awesome. Congrats.
yeah, thank you.
That's awesome. I guess bonus question. I always do this. I was like, final question. While you're on this roller coaster ride, are you at a like a songwriting pause and you're just focused on your current project, or are you already working on the next 10 years of Taylor?
I'm kind of at a songwriting pause, which
Good.
which
Okay.
as someone that the songwriting is like the root of everything, I
Yeah.
like sometimes like, am I ever gonna be able to write a song again? And I think that it's like an artist thing to kind of like
Yeah.
commiserate or whatever in order to get the art or the song or whatever. But I was outside, working in my yard yesterday and had a couple little ideas rolling around in my head. So that felt good. But yeah, I think that this is just such a busy time, and I'm
Yeah.
hopeful that once this record is out in the world and all behind me, that I can kind of open like a new chapter, a new type of song, and write in like a different box, I guess
Yeah.
you could say. So
Yeah. It'll come back, and I've always had that feeling too of like, am I ever going to be able to do it again? If you've done it before,
yeah.
it's going to happen again. So I can't wait for that. That'll be exciting. We'll be patient for now.
Yeah, well, if this took 10 years, yeah, you're gonna have to be really patient.
No, yeah, yeah. Who knows? Sometimes things will go fast. You have a bunch of vault songs now. You never know. It can be remixed. I don't know. But
Yes, well, I just need somebody to fund the next venture then if
there we
it's gonna
go.
happen fast, you know?
Hey, it'll happen. Taylor,
Yeah.
thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed talking to you. Again, I wish you the best of luck and can't wait to see what you do.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for having me. This was really great.
Thank you. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Craft Talk. Taylor and Tito signing off. We'll see you next time.